Now, the next scene is really, really good, though. It's a quick cutaway to Faye, who's lying in like a hospital bed, right?
I need you to explain to me some of his dream.
Sweet, we can do this.
Yes.
So I want to look at all the dialogue here and kind of the imagery too. So Faye is laying there in the bed. Some dialogue comes on the screen and says, "Our cursed existence bound to the earth." Then some more, "O vessel for a new soul,
Yes, what
created to remove that yoke." Right? So
Yes.
referencing the nano...
Now, we don't know
machine
whose
tech-
voice this is.
The nano... what do they call it? Nano machine colony.
Yeah.
The little girl with the green hair.
Yes.
Then we cut.
But we don't know whose voice that was, right?
I guess we don't. I would
It's
assume,
in Faye's voice.
I would assume it's
It's
Faye.
likely his
I would assume it's
subconscious, right?
But we cut to a shot inside of that little corridor in the lab.
In the lab.
Ellie, or someone with orange hair, is laying in the spot with the blood.
Yes. Yes.
She's laying down there, injured on the spot.
But no one's been here for 4,000 years.
There are a bunch of guys with guns, like soldiers there.
Yes.
And Faye in a lab coat is looking through the
and
glass.
he's saying, "No, I won't let you have her,"
He
something
says,
like that?
"I just can't hand our child over to you."
I can't hand our child over.
And the nanomachine technology, nanomachine colony girl is in the tank behind
The same
him.
girl?
Yes. Faye in a lab coat, looking through the glass. The nanomachine colony girl with the green hair is behind him in the tube. There's a girl lying there in front of the glass, the door is closed, in the same spot where Ellie looked at all the blood on the floor.
Yes.
And there's a bunch of soldiers. And he's saying, "I can't just hand our child over to you." Then there's a bunch of exclamation marks as the screen goes black. "No, stop it." Right? Then you have
Yes.
the laughing of the
You
little
have
boy
The little boy who,
with the hair in his eyes.
yes,
Right.
who we had identified was the id of his
The
subconscious.
id of Faye's subconscious.
Just kind of behind him,
Yep,
laughing.
and
right?
and then he just says, "See ya," and it goes black.
See ya. Yeah. So that kid obviously wasn't there in real life, but that kid was not there in 4,000 years ago Faye's life. I don't think. That's not what we're seeing. What I thought we were initially seeing was, oh, this guy has a dude behind him who is messing with him with 4,000 years ago Faye. But it was actually current day Faye's dream that the kid was talking to current day Faye when he was laughing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't see that at first.
Yes.
I saw that as he was behind. I thought that this kid's been tormenting Faye
lab
through the
coat.
ages for many, many thousands of years
Let me look at
initially.
it real quick because it comes up here in just a second.
But he is looking at us,
okay.
talking to us in our dream.
Yes. So there's
Faye,
a
modern, current day
lab
Faye.
coat Faye. Something happens there. Oh, it is lab coat Faye.
Yes, but he's talking to us, to current day Faye,
Yes.
even though he's standing behind lab coat Faye.
Yes. And do we have a guess as to why yet?
As to why he's looking at us?
Well, why they would show lab coat Faye, but he's still talking to modern day Faye?
Because no,
Okay.
I don't have a guess. It's just we have memories from this person, but I still don't know exactly what's going on here.
Okay.
I don't even really have a guess.
Okay. So anyways, little kid comes in to take over, right? The id.
It could be that, but this would be, no, that doesn't really work. That it's the same id over all the times that and possesses different people, but they all look like Faye. They all seem to be Faye.
Yeah.
They all seem to be his ancestors or something like that. Anyways.
Okay.
Yeah, don't know what's going on there.
So you're running after Bishop Stone. You're trying to catch up with him again. Citon and Ellie, and I had Billy with me, but you could have Bart too, I guess, or Rico or something.
I had Citon, Ellie, and Billy.
So, chasing after him, and you get back up to the bridge again, that big bridge where you can see the city in the distance. And this is where you confront him, and then all of a sudden, because Bishop Stone's like, oh, those elements, they're not nearly as good as people say. He couldn't even buy me time. But then the red-haired warrior shows up again.
And
He reveals his name finally.
Yes, he says my name is Id.
His name is Id.
And when Faye had the dream and it blacks out, it's like, okay, he's going into the mode.
Id mode.
Right, he's going into id mode. I still don't get why no one recognizes him. No one knows who he is.
Well,
Even okay, Satan is always just playing dumb, whatever. But he will fight people who know him very well. Face to face, hand to hand combat.
Yes.
And they're like, who are you?
well, I guess this would be the first time they're seeing him out of the gear. Because in all the previous times he's been in the red gear when he fights you.
Yes, but it's Faye.
Yeah, but you can't see him. They cannot see him because he's inside of his gear. It's just a red gear that they're fighting.
I understand that for before. Why do they still not know?
In this scene,
They don't know
not
who
recognizing him. Well,
That's what I'm
So
referring
you
to.
brought this up last time, and I said, wait till you see his portrait, right? Because you were like,
I
he doesn't.
did.
He
I
doesn't
saw
look
his
like
portrait.
him.
He still doesn't look like Faye. I don't think he looks like Faye.
I think he does.
Okay, if you
His
overlay them.
face does. His face does. Nothing else.
I didn't do a Photoshop overlay and look at their comparison. I did not feel like they
do it.
resemble each other.
Well, then
very
you have
well.
your own answer. They don't recognize him because he doesn't look like Faye.
Yes, but he is Faye, isn't he? So I'm confused. I don't get why.
Let's take a look
when
at the
he
portrait
becomes
here.
Faye, Faye literally changes
Here's
form, right?
Portrait of Faye's face.
Like, I do agree they look kind of similar, but within anime, when the
Yeah.
same artist draws different characters,
Sometimes
they
they have
all
similar
will
faces
look
or
similar anyways. And so it's just not very clear to
Well,
me.
this is what I mean.
They are the same people, but they don't look
They
anything alike
have
to me.
similarities enough to where if you look at them closely, oh, that's the same person's face. But they look different enough to where you wouldn't recognize that person immediately. So this is what I'm trying to say.
Or even after
he
fighting
has-
him face to
He
face.
has facial features that do resemble Faye's. So it's like, okay, I could see that. But if you don't know that and the red guy just shows up, you're not going to go, oh, that's Faye.
No.
So that's why they don't recognize him, even fighting him face to face.
It's a drawn out fight. I don't know. I guess if Ramses didn't have
Even Ramses,
Yang with her, with
yeah,
him,
he didn't identify
then he
him
wouldn't
at first
know
either. He's like, because he says he looks completely different earlier in the game, right? But then he's like, oh, which
So
one is he?
I'm-
Oh, he's in the black gear.
I'm
there.
guessing we'll find out why they look so different later on, because they should not
their
look this
facial features
different or different at all.
bear resemblances, like the shape of the face, the proportions, and the shape of the nose, right?
Yes,
The
yes.
eyebrows, like the proportion between eyebrows to eyes, to it's all correct for Faye. Even
Yeah.
like the hairline, a little bit, like you can kind of.
Oh, he's got like a widow's peak, something going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I see
like
that.
there, it's there, like the eye color, a little bit. I guess it's a little more gold in the id form, but anyways, his skin here is very pale white, and
Yes.
obviously, right? It's there, but it's like it's not something you're just going to call out right away. Oh, that looks exactly like Faye. So to me, it makes sense that they don't recognize him immediately
Sure.
upon seeing him.
So he's gonna have to tell them.
Aside from Saitan, who probably knows.
Satan
exactly
probably
what's going
knew who he was, still fights him anyways, which is strange because the id is incredibly violent. I don't know, at this point, I don't know why id chooses to fight us instead of the bishop. So it seems as if the id agrees with Bishop Stone.
on. No, because he wants him to give back the nano.
He says
mission
that, but then he fights us, not them.
Well, I think.
He says that. He's like, hey, she's important, give her back. But then
Let me.
we
let
end
me
up
watch
fighting
this
him.
real quick.
And he's not that strong. Like, he's strong, but like,
Well,
he's not the one hit, one punch knockout that he has been previously in other, times where we've seen him fight. This confuses me.
Okay, so
he's like, he
here's-
is so, like, id doesn't just show up whenever, right? It's got to be a really important reason, and then he just bubbles to the top of Faye's mind, I guess, and then takes over and goes to do something that he takes to be really important. He is here because of this girl. He completely ignores the girl once we talk to him at all.
I think what you're saying is correct.
Yes.
But you might just be looking more into it than you should, because it's like they just wanted to have a boss fight here.
I hate that answer.
Because at the end of the scene, right? It's not like Bishop Stone ran away while they were fighting us. He's still standing there.
Yes.
And so Id is then he's like held by Wiseman. When Wiseman shows up.
Yes.
Right? And then everybody can run away.
So,
But I don't think Id was like, oh, I'm ignoring Bishop Stone to fight you, and I'm going to let him get away.
You're actually-
I
you're
think
right.
what he's
You're
saying
right.
is, I'm just going to kill everybody.
you're right, because I remember that Bishop gets away, but it wasn't immediate. So it's almost as if this battle, it takes forever in the game because it's a game and it's an interpretation of something, but the reality is he showed up, kicked our butts immediately,
Yes.
and then turns to the
Yes.
Bishop, but then Wiseman shows up.
Wiseman shows up.
That, were this a movie, that's how it would have happened.
Yes.
But because it's an RPG and it's abstract, okay.
Yes.
Fair enough. I get you there. I get you there.
I think, anyways,
I'll
I
go
know
with
what
that.
you're saying.
I'll go with that.
But it is definitely not
He's not
ignoring
just
Bishop
letting her
Stone
go.
or fighting on the side of Bishop Stone against us or anything
Okay.
like that. He's just here to indiscriminately kill and take back the nanomachine colony. It's not like he thinks Bishop Stone's going to get away, even if he were to start running right now.
Right.
It's like, he can't get away from me because he's way powerful. Now,
I also don't understand why he didn't just kill us all in 1 second, but
I would assume it's because Wiseman shows up and helps
yeah,
us.
Sure.
Is essentially what's going on there.
Just
Yeah.
the way he just,
There it is.
I guess he was in his gear when he fought Ramses, but that was
So
just,
too strong, huh? And so like he's in the middle of fighting us. And he's like, "Whoa, this guy's too powerful."
Yeah, this
but
guy's
then
too strong,
Wiseman
huh?
shows up and grabs him, and everybody's still here.
you?
And he's like, "Okay, now's our chance." Stone says,
Now's
"Let's
our
get back.
chance,
Let's get out of
yes.
here." So. What might have been cool there, what might have been cool now that I'm thinking about it, is if you had almost like a three-way battle going on there. Where you have Stone
Oh,
and the
dude.
dudes on this side. You have Faye or Id in the middle. And then you have our party over here. And so it'd be like Bishop and these guys would attack him. And then
That
he'd turn
would have
around
been
and
cool.
bah, 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 and like beat him up. And then we turn back around if we attacked and start attacking us. So it's like we're all attacking Id. And Id's fighting us all
That
off.
would have been sick.
Like that would have been probably a nice way to like get the idea across that Bishop Stone isn't just sitting there, I'll wait to escape until after the battle's over. You know?
Yeah.
That's more the way I guess I sort of see this in my head is Id is there fighting everybody.
Okay.
And then when Wiseman grabs him, then everyone has a chance to run away, including Bishop Stone and everybody who Id would not have let go otherwise.
Yeah.
That make sense?
Yep, it does. It does.
Okay.
I accept this.
That's the way I would read that. But anyways, Wiseman helps us escape. We run out. I guess the important things to take out of that is Id says that the nanomachine girl belongs to him.
Yes.
Give it back to me. We've now clarified that Id is a form of Faye's subconscious that emerges and takes over.
Yes, and
Right.
Faye also has some other part of him that is gone back thousands of years.
Yes, and
That was
Faye
involved
in the
in
lab
these events.
coat was there with
Yes.
the nanomachine girl, and people were coming to take it away.
Yeah.
So Id is there to get the nanomachine girl back. This is just a way of us attaching these memories that Faye is having of previous lives and of his current time with Id. They're one and the same person, but like another part of his subconscious, which is why it's called Id. It's an on-the-nose reference to Freud,
Yes.
right? So we've finally made this connection. Faye is Id. He is the Red Warrior.
Yeah.
It's just his subconscious mind, the id part of his brain, taking over, and it manifests in this very violent and almost like psychopathic personality,
Right.
secondary personality almost, right? That's what we get. That's what the scene is telling us. That's what we're supposed to get out of that. Everybody gets away because Wiseman helps. What were you going to say before I started on that?
Well,
You were saying maybe it's a good time to something.
just the little thing while you're in there, the 35 million hours. as you're going around.
Oh,
you
yeah.
come to the different points where it says, do you want to activate this thing? Last time it was activated was 35 million years ago, right?
Yeah.
And that does equate to 4,000 years, just in case anybody didn't have a calculator around when they first played the game. That's where that comes from. We were kind of joking about it earlier. But 35,000 million hours is 4,000 years.
Yes.
And so that's how we know that this all happened 4,000 years ago.
Yes. They're like on the deck of the Yggdrasil, I think.
Yes.
And they see the fishbowl ship flying away.
And it goes away really quickly.
He says some things.
Oh, this would be a good...
Yes, it is. So after they exit.
But before we leave, I just now saw it on your computer screen. There is Id. When Wiseman shows up, Id all of a sudden gets this pink glow around him that we have seen in previous memories of the past. He did not have it when we fought him, but as soon as Wiseman shows up, Id starts to glow pink. And my guess is that's when he becomes ultra powerful. More like he's using a hidden secret energy that I think Graf uses something like it when he uses power, when he imbues other people with power.
Yeah,
there's
Super Saiyan 2.
Blue glow. Yeah, there's like a different glow. But we've seen that glow a few different places now, and I think we see the purpose for it now. It's like an extra power-up kind of thing.
Yeah, because he has to obviously fight Wiseman now.
Who's much stronger.
But you're right, that purple glow, or pink glow.
It was not there
As
before.
he's holding him, it sort of like comes on, and that's when he breaks free of his grasp, right?
Yep, and he's like, you will do for today.
Oh, no.
Yep, and I wonder if Wiseman lives or not. We will find out later, I suppose.
We do see him in Shabbat. Did you see him? He's standing outside of Queen Zephyr's chamber.
I don't recall that.
Yeah, Wiseman is standing outside of Queen Zephyr's throne room in Shabbat.
Does he talk, or do we just go?
You can talk to him, and he's like, "Hey, I put in the word for you."
I don't think I talked to him. I think I just went in,
he's
and then I was
standing
going to
out there.
talk to him afterwards, but I was done.
He's standing out there.
Okay, very interesting. So he lives.
So he does survive.
Wiseman does not die here.
He does not die.
Wow.
He gets away. Okay, so you leave the dig site, the Ethos dig site, this dungeon. You come out, you're on the Yggdrasil's deck, and you're seeing the fishbowl ship fly away. And Seitan clarifies some things here. He says, I'm worried about what Bishop Stone mentioned. He said he needed her to free humanity from its yoke. Perhaps some ancient information on human reconstruction is hidden inside of her body. Then he says demi-humans such as Rico and Hammer were born from the results of messing around with DNA. That was done by ancient Solaris in hopes that would bring about the restoration of mankind. If Krelian is thinking of trying the same thing with improved nanotechnology, that would be frightening. So 500 years ago, Solaris was doing some kind of experimenting with DNA to try to restore some form of restoration of mankind.
Sure.
That resulted in the demi-humans of Xenogears world, the dolphin men and the rat people and the Blankas of the world.
Yes, Blanca. So there is some state of mankind that is not the current mankind, right?
Yes.
And they're trying to reclaim
Solaris,
some former glory
yes.
that mankind used to have.
There is
I wonder what that would
a
look
state of mankind that Solaris is after.
I understand the state. This seems like biology, though. This seems
Yes.
like biological.
It's part of an evolutionary
DNA.
biological process
Yeah.
to reach a specific state of mankind. And they've been trying to get that. If past failures resulted in demi-humans.
Right.
They're hoping that the nanotechnology from the Zeboim era will unlock the way to make this happen. And all of this is in pursuit of the resurrection of God, the time of the gospel.
Sure. Within the Gazelle or within Emperor Cain?
Well, Emperor Cain and the Gazelle are kind of...
They're
but
connected?
they're
Are the
on the
Gazelle
s-
trying to do what
They're
Cain...
part of the same governmental body.
Yeah.
But now, obviously, there is some kind of rift between them,
Okay.
right? Like their
But
goals
this wouldn't be the rift. They'd be in agreement on this aspect, which
the
is
time
we
of
should
the gospel, resurrecting
resurrect
God,
God.
and the pursuit of getting mankind to the right evolutionary state to make that happen.
And when they say mankind, they're likely not referring to the lambs, right? They're probably referring to just themselves.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
But I would think it's all mankind.
I would, okay, yeah. So they do want to reunite with the lambs in a glorious reunion of
I don't want to put it that.
paradise?
I don't want to put it that way.
I would guess the lambs are their test people, and once they figure it out, they use it on themselves, and then they just get rid of the lambs. They're just like, we're done with you.
There's so much more to it, and we don't know it yet. So
Okay, that's cool.
I can't clarify.
Cool.
But they want to evolute mankind to a certain place, and it's all part of the plan or the time of the gospel resurrection of God plan. That's what it's all about.
Okay.
And they think the nanotechnology might give them the secret to figuring that out, right? Or Satan is worried that Krelian is going to do something with that would be frightening.
So they call this woman that was created, or a girl, I guess she's like a kid, a colony. So the colony is the person. Like she's
made up
as
of,
a person.
She's made up of a colony of nanomachines.
And like each of those nanomachines is like a different kind of thing that they can use. I'm just trying to figure out how a person is a colony, I guess. They just refer to her as a colony. As if she's not a real person, she's just an information receiver.
The body is a colony of nanomachines. The soul is
something else.
A single person.
Okay, right.
I mean, I guess you could think of it as like you have living cells all in your body. There's
sure, and they're single
trillions of living organisms that make up you.
Right.
But you're
you.
Are a single consciousness.
Fair enough.
It's just nano machines instead of
It seemed
cells.
like she was like a message, and they don't even refer to her as a person, you know? She's just a thing of information, and then as soon as they get her up in the thing, they can just dissolve her down into just basic material and then work with that, you know?
Well, we'll see. We'll see exactly what they plan to do with her, but they get away with her, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you go back to the hangar of the Yggdrasil, and here's the another proof of what we've already put together. Faye is standing there by the Weltall.
Yes, and the Weltall's like smoking.
Steaming.
Yeah, and it's like
It's steaming as if it was just you.
Yes.
Now, in the past, you had talked about where's this other red gear coming from, right?
Apparently, it is Weltall, and Miang mentioned Weltall is awakening as well.
The gear is awakening itself.
So
now connects this all the way back to Old Man Bao.
Yes,
back in the cave in Ave, who looked at the gear and said, "This is the machine that's going to kill God," or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
So
the machine is capable, just like Faye is capable of dyeing his hair red in a moment's notice and changing red. Weltall can turn red also and has some properties that make him unrecognizable, but it is still the same thing.
Yeah, think of it like a transformer. It has like another mode. It turns into its red mode.
Have you ever seen those people who can like change clothes in like 2 seconds?
Yeah.
But they're like behind those are great.
Yeah.
That's
what the Weltall can do. That's what the Weltall can do. Okay, so anyways, they're like, Faye, you can't fight in your state. And he's like, no, I have to. And
but they're asking him too. They're like, where have you been? And he's like, I don't know.
I don't know what's going on.
What are you doing? He's like, I don't know how I even got here.
So Saitan stays behind to kind of like take care of him while the other party goes to fight Bishop Stone in his new form all of a sudden.
Yes.
So
it took me a minute to recognize him, but I saw his green thing, his coat that he was wearing, and I was like, this is him.
We talked a little bit last time about like passage of time and like the abstraction of it. We don't know if like a lot of time has passed or not. They just were on the deck of the Yggdrasil and they watched that fishbowl thing fly away. And Bishop Stone was on board that vessel as it flew away. However much time it took for them to walk down into the hangar from there and talk to Faye, then to go back up and see, there's this gear who's like observing us.
Huge gear.
Bishop Stone is in that gear.
Yeah.
And we see him as basically Marvel's Red Skull now.
He is Red Skull. I mistook him initially, before I talked to you, the whole time, I mistook him for one of the Gazelle. He looks, because the Gazelle look like Red Skull also.
Yeah.
Some of them. And I mistook him. I thought, oh my gosh, big reveal. Bishop Barron was one of the Gazelle. Now, based on things that happen a little bit later, that cannot be true.
Yes.
But it does look similar enough to where I figured that could have been the case.
So, yeah.
I mean,
the color.
at the low resolution of the PlayStation, it's hard to tell that, these people have red skin, whereas the other guy looks different.
Yeah, I could see what you mean, though.
Yeah.
So anyways, Bishop
And they're
Stone
masked up.
looks freaking crazy now. And it's very sudden. It's like you don't even get a scene. It would be maybe nice to have a scene where Bishop Stone goes up to Krelian
Takes off
and
his
report
mask.
and gives the nanomachine colony over.
Well,
and he's like, I will give you this new body to unlock your hidden
Yes.
powers or something like that. So that we know this happened. It's just like all of a sudden we see Bishop Stone talking. There's no explanation made whatsoever.
I know.
He just looks like Red Skull
This
now.
game loves to do that, I've noticed. But it also kind of gives you a little bit of a hint that Bishop Stone isn't really involved with the process of the girl. He was involved in getting the girl, and after the girl has been gotten and put aboard that fishbowl ship, he is no longer like part of whatever's happening afterwards.
Yeah.
And this is kind of a way to show that. As soon as that ship leaves, he's like already out of it. Like, who even knows what's going on with the girl?
Yeah.
He may not even care. He did his job, right? So it doesn't matter.
So then, as Bishop Stone is sort of like watching, observing the Yggdrasil, Graf shows up for a essentially verbatim repeat of the "Do you want the power"
With
scene
Vanderkam,
from
yeah.
Vanderkam
Yeah.
earlier. It's like almost exactly the same, except the one difference is that Stone explains that Krelian gave him this
Yes.
body and that he already has power because of it.
Yeah.
But then Graf basically says that's a fake power.
Yes, that's it. He says,
fake
that's
news.
fake power. Fake news.
That's exactly what I thought. That's fake power.
Oh, that's fake power. You need the real thing.
That's exactly what I thought. Yes, so Graf claims it's fake power and that he can give him real power. And then he goes through the whole thing again. Whatever.
Okay.
Then Billy and your party comes out to like face off against Stone. And now this scene, I feel so conflicted about it. There's like parts of it I think are so well done and so good and so, I don't know, interesting. There are other parts of it that just really leave me scratching my head execution-wise.
Yeah.
And part of it is the dialogue, part of it is like Jesse saying stuff that just like feels like it. I don't know how to describe it. Let's just take it line by line, I guess.
He's trying to be deep and poetic, but
It's not.
it's not.
But there is some really good stuff in the scene, and so like I don't know, I'm like totally like half and half on the scene. But what I really like about it is that Stone here is basically getting his revenge on Jesse and Billy in revealing who he really is and what his intentions really were the whole time. So I took down the dialogue from Stone, whose real name is Stein. Jesse refers to him as Stein.
Yes, and the Gazelle, I think, said something about, Stein. Stein is
his actual name.
Yeah.
His
yeah.
Solarian name or whatever.
His
he
German
says,
name.
When I took you in 4 years ago, he's saying this to Billy, that was proof of my old friendship with your father. In that hate-stained friendship with Josiah, we competed for command of Gebler. Josiah, like a beast, stole the Raquel I loved. So Jesse's wife, Stone, loved her too, right? And threw away the command of the Gebler that I wanted so much.
Yeah.
Then
yeah.
disappeared from Solaris. So all Stein wanted was command of the Gebler. Jesse gets it.
And
All he
then
wanted
Jesse-
was Raquel's love.
girl.
Jesse gets it.
Yeah.
He just throws away the Gebler command and takes off with this girl that he loved, this woman that he loved. So he has just so much hate in his heart for Josiah, right? Then he disappeared from Solaris. He goes on to say, through Krelian's wisdom, so Krelian incited this, using the wells, I saved Raquel from misery. And it shows the scene again
Where she dies.
and
Yeah.
Bishop Stone used those wells to kill Raquel, because he mentioned something about he'd been tainted by, or she had been tainted by Jesse, and so like he was using this to like save her from his influence and from, you know, misery or whatever, and that he took in Billy and Primera basically. All of this to get back at Jesse, right? But it was interesting that it was Krelian who incited that idea to use the wells to kill Raquel. Those Reapers that you've been, and then this is where he reveals
We don't know
Billy.
much about Krelian. He's kind of been introduced, but we don't know.
Yeah, we're still learning about him.
Yeah, I'm curious.
He goes on to say, those Reapers that you've been purging are really all people. They were chosen by the ethos and converted by Krelian. So Krelian is the one making wells out of people that the ethos chooses.
Interesting.
So Billy's pissed. You killed my mother, you know, like, you son of a, like, I'm going to get you. But I think that's where he basically tries to make him feel bad. Like, you've been murdering people all this time by killing Wells, kind of thing, right?
Yes.
And this is where Jesse enters the scene. So I really liked all that. I really liked all that stuff with Bishop Stone revealing who he really was all the time. It's really well done. Jesse then shows up and says, no, you have nothing to regret. So he comes to stand by Billy and tell him, like, you have nothing to feel guilty about.
Right. Says you look into the eyes of the Wells when you kill them and they're at peace in their last moments. They weren't happy in their current form.
Yeah. They were tortured and turned into this, and the torment that they feel is awful. And, you know, what you're doing was a good thing, killing these Wells, right? Now, his plan here, because there's a barrier. The first part of the boss fight, you can't do any damage to the boss. And so it kind of cuts away from that, and we're having the scene here. But there's a barrier that prevents you from hurting.
And my guess is that was Graf's power he gave him. It was like, hey,
him.
No one can touch you.
Yeah. So actually, now that I think about it, Vanderkam had not exactly the same, but a similar mechanic in the boss fight where
so it might be his
you had to
power
break through a barrier. You had to do like 9 attacks before you could break through Vanderkam's barrier and actually do damage to him. So maybe the power that Graf is giving them, at least within the combat, has something to do with some kind of protection.
A protection,
or something like that.
Interesting.
So Jesse's idea to break through this barrier is to use this. He transforms his gear, Jesse's gear, into like this giant gun. Yeah. And then he's going to be launched himself. Yes. As a bullet, as a projectile from the gun. It shoots the pilot of the gear out into this massive magical explosion. Yeah. This is what I was referring to earlier when I said we'll talk about ether a little bit later.
Yes, this is where they start talking about ether. I think Satan brings it up. He's like, maybe we can use our ether to channel our positive energy to break the shield. And it seemed a little, I don't know, what's the word?
I wrote down what he said, and it's really, it just made me laugh
It's
out
a little
loud.
cheesy.
It's
it
super
seems
cheesy.
like they're going
So
there,
he says,
you know?
Or Jesse says, use this, Billy. If you use this, you can rip off the barrier. And then Satan says, that is a bunt line. It is an ether gun gear where the pilot rides directly in the bullet. If we use that, we can break through Stone's negative hatred power.
Yes, his negative hatred power with the power of friendship.
I'm sorry, it's so cheesy. Oh my goodness. Negative hatred, his negative hatred power.
Much.
The idea here is that people can harness ether. This is what makes it possible to use magic in the world of Xenogears. Yeah. So what I'm taking from this is that by launching the pilot, it's like all the ether in the pilot is used in some kind of explosion.
It's the power of the pilot.
So it's the ether potential inside of the pilot of the gear who is shot out that does this big explosion that will rip off the barrier. Satan tries to tell Billy that this is what's going to happen, but oh no, the comms are down and he's not responding, he can't hear me. Right. So Billy does it not knowing this is going to launch his father in a bullet to explode and take off the barrier. It's played out as if Jesse is self-sacrificing and Billy doesn't know that. So when Billy shoots it, then Seitan explains, "Oh no, it's too late. This is what this does." And Billy goes, "Oh my God, I just killed my dad. Like, what the hell?" Right?
and then we fight.
Then you fight, and you kill Bishop Stone, and everyone's like, "Oh no, Jesse's gone. We're going to do this little send-off where I fire some bullets out over the ocean."
Yes, it's what he would have wanted.
But Jesse just walks up and he's just fine.
About 30 seconds later. It took him about 30 seconds before he was just like, surprise!
I'm here still, and the only explanation given, which is not an explanation, it's just a total like gloss over.
It goes over the purpose, the way the gun works, as far as we can tell. I mean, I don't know.
He just says to Seitan, because Seitan developed this bunt line technology, by the way.
Yeah.
He's the one who like created it.
Okay.
So he says to Seitan, "You don't think," what does he say? Did I write it down? "You don't think that I would just leave that junk how it was," or something like that? He says something about, "I improved it," or something like that, right? Like, so basically, this is glossed over or explained, in quotes, quote unquote explained, by Jesse improved on the technology so he wouldn't have to die in the process.
Yeah, so that's great.
So it's a fake out death, and in the same scene, I don't know. This is the other element of the scene I didn't love. It's cheesy. It's like not really that emotionally impactful, considering.
Not really. It could have been, and in some sense, for me, I was like, this is Jesse's time.
Yeah.
It's time to go. His son's awake. His son can
Yeah.
carry on his work. We don't need him anymore. He's not important to the story.
Yeah.
And he can really show, how important his kid is for him by doing this.
Yes.
I was like sold. Like, this is how it's got to be. This is how it's got to be.
And then they just whoop.
Yeah.
Nope. No consequences. Right.
And it could have had impact. It could have. It just didn't.
Those are the elements of the scene I don't like, but there's so much of it that I do. There's some good dialogue when Jesse is. Actually, there's one other thing I don't like, but let's get to this first. Jesse says to Billy as he's explaining to him, what seems like a final words to his son situation, right? He's trying to encourage him because Bishop Stone has totally thrown his entire life upside down, and he's trying to say, like, no, you were helping those wells, you didn't do anything wrong. He says, but faith and God aren't things which are given to you from others, right? They are things that you have to discover within yourself and by yourself. Things that cannot be put into words, things that cannot be expressed. Isn't that what God is all about? Now, that is a very Gnostic outlook.
Yeah.
Because in Gnosticism, it was all about finding the revealed, secret, hidden truth inside of yourself.
Within you.
Not a doctrine, not a dogma that a church creates and that is taught to you by the clergy. That they reject.
But it's something you discover.
It's something that you discover inside yourself. The secret truth can only be found inside of yourself, between you and a personal relationship with God. That was entirely a Gnostic view on how you should pursue spirituality. And that's totally embodied in what Jesse is saying here, which I thought was very interesting.
It's similar to the general idea of you shall be as gods, right?
Yeah.
Given that the power of God resides within you.
Yes.
Somewhere, right?
Yes.
And you find it, but it's within you. And it seems like that's a theme that has been visited multiple times within this game.
Yeah. There is no organization. There is no clergy or no religious leader or organization or body who can give that to you.
Yes.
You can only find that with your own pursuit of knowledge and truth, and that comes with a personal connection to the Most High, a personal connection to God. Right. And you should mistrust anyone telling you that they can give you that, because that can't be found or that can't be given. You have to find it inside yourself. That is a very Gnostic perspective or philosophy. And so I thought it was interesting that Jesse is the one who gives that, as Bishop Stone, who represents...
Well, Jesse says multiple things, and Satan brings this up later on. Jesse says, oh, you're... what he says to Bishop Stone, he says, I'm going to send you to hell, and Ellie, or not Ellie, the girl,
Raquel
won't be there because you're going to hell and she's
Yeah.
in heaven, is the
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
And, and he references God in a few other parts as well, but Satan brings it up, like, wow, you don't seem to be the kind of person who would even believe in God, let alone like the stuff you're saying back there. And in some ways he kind of laughs it off, like, yeah, I was just, it sounded cool, huh? Like kind of thing, it just kind of plays it off like I was just talking. But it's interesting that he does have like a lot of,
He's actually a
he
spiritual
has some
man.
sort of spirituality within himself that Billy could not see because Billy was so caught up in the dogma
entrenched in
and
ethos.
in the doctrine of the specific, religion that he was a part of, that he couldn't see anything about his father that was anyway spiritual.
Which was true of the Orthodox Church clergy and the Gnostics. It was the same thing.
Yes, that was
the way
an
that
issue.
they viewed the Gnostics.
Yes, which
was
is
similar
why
to how Billy viewed Jesse throughout the game.
Which is in part why it's so difficult to actually nail down what Gnostics believed.
Yeah.
There are a lot of different Gnostic texts, and they're all a little bit different from each other because they didn't have that uniformity of thought.
Right.
They had a general philosophy, and then everyone else just kind of took that in different ways.
They
and
all had their
the
own.
Gnostics weren't very organized.
Right.
Also probably why they more or less disappeared. But the philosophy is still exists,
Yes.
but the Gnostics aren't really a thing.
So, it's something that I found really interesting there. However, he then goes on to talk about, like, Billy, you said that guns are just tools for killing or whatever like that. Guns don't kill people, people kill people.
Yeah.
Which I think is really clumsy.
Ted Nugent couldn't have said it better.
I'm really not sure what, and that's why I don't want to like hang on this too long. I'm not sure what the writers are trying to say with this. Like it comes off as a very clumsy thing. Other than at the baseline,
he's trying to make Billy feel better about what he
did. And
I think that's more or less it.
But I mean, like, there's obviously a scale of destruction that comes with like greater and greater killing technology.
Yeah, nukes don't kill people. People kill people.
Exactly.
Sure.
That doesn't mean that you don't try to reduce or like disarm people from having the capability of
killing people,
wiping out people on a scale like that, right? A gun is much more effective at killing large amounts of people than a club or a knife or something like that. So anyways, I felt it was clumsy. I guess I sort of understand that he's just trying to tell his son, like, you can use your gun as a tool for good.
For good,
But to use that particular phrase, I think is clumsy.
Yeah.
Personally. And it doesn't really address what Billy's objection to guns was. Because Billy's objection to guns are tools used to kill people. And he doesn't like contradict that.
But you know what?
Guns don't kill people. That's not what he's saying. He's saying that guns are a tool that allow you to kill a lot of people. And so we shouldn't use them.
Yes. But what's his name? Jesse's just trying to work with what he's got. And the advice Jesse gives to Billy is, I find it very realistic, even including that particular line, because that is kind of how Jesse talks. He uses weird analogies. He's often drunk. He doesn't really say things that the words he say are less important than the feeling, but with which he is trying to convey those words.
Sure.
And at the very least, he's trying to be a good dad to his son, and his words betray him, but his feelings are you can see them kind of shine forth in a way that you couldn't before. There were several times in the past where scenes that we'd seen with him and Billy where he was just saying dumb, nonsensical stuff. It reminds me a little bit of like Final Fantasy VIII, who is the alter ego of the main character, but from the past, from like 20 years ago. The game should have been about him. I can't remember his name.
Laguna?
Laguna. And it was an L, but I was thinking Leo. Laguna. Almost when Laguna has his little one-liners that are like, that didn't land. Like that was wrong. Jesse kind of has the similar like brain function as Laguna.
Yeah.
Like to some degree. And it doesn't work, but the emotion's there. And so it still feels good.
I think you're right. I think that, perhaps, looking a little too hard into the words, there's not really any intention other than this is just the way that this character, as we've built him up, would go about trying to make this point.
Whether it makes sense or not. Yeah.
Yeah, and that it's not like the writer is not speaking through the character with any kind of theme or message in that.
Yeah.
It's just that's just how Jesse sees the world, and he's just doing his best to comfort his son.
Right.
That's just fine too.
That's more or less it.
But then he has another line after saying, I improved it, right? I improved the technology so that I wouldn't die. That uses its pilot as a warhead. I figured out a way to not die, and I improved
still
it.
harness the power.
And then he says, I ain't gonna leave that stupid junk alone. I improved it. And then he says, ouchie, wow, wow. But I never want to do that again, though. Please tell me what he says in Japanese, because that can't be right.
We're gonna have to. So that's good enough. So it's atsu. So atsui means hot. And what he's saying here is atsu. And I don't know, it's weird in Japanese too. Let's just say that. It's not ouchie wow wow, but it's not a normal thing that anyone ever would say. The atsu.
Would that be more like if you put your hand on like a stove or something hot on accident, you go, ay, 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 ay.
Something like that. I would say
that burned, that hurt.
I would say that probably because atsui means hot, although that's more like weather hot.
Or even like if you touch like a mug that with like coffee in it, and it's really hot and burns your hand.
Ow, wow, ow, wow, 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 while poking.
Or hot, or something like that.
See, it's atsui is hot, but atsu might be referring to something else. I don't really know. Yeah, but it's enough to know what he says in Japanese, and it might actually be a little bit beyond my understanding of Japanese to know what atsu means colloquially.
Yeah.
It could be a reference to atsui, which means hot. It could be itai. I expected him to say itai, which means ouch.
Yeah.
Something like that. He doesn't. He just says atsu. That could just be like an onomatopoeia or like an expression, just a right?
Yeah.
Or he could have been actually saying something funny in Japanese, but it's a little bit beyond
All I know is
my skill.
I've never heard a person utter in English the words ouchie wow wow.
How often can you say that about this game, where it's like the localizers translated it to a thing that no human has ever said in English?
Ever
in English, yeah.
No one has ever said, ouchie, wow, wow.
That
ever.
is so
That
strange.
has never happened.
Yeah.
Say, yikes. Say,
yes.
Geez. Say, oh, that's hot, or anything.
Or even, that's weird, but ow, wow, 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 wow would make a little more sense.
It'd still be weird, but it would make more sense than ouchie, wow, wow.
Ouchie, wow, wow.
Which no one has ever said ever.
No one's ever said that before. Say it in the comments if you've ever said ouchie,
Particularly
wow, wow.
not
I challenge you, you did not.
Particularly not a 30-something-year-old gruff man. Maybe like a baby said that by just completely, I don't know, like a toddler. Maybe a toddler said that once.
Maybe once.
But come on, anyway.
100 years ago.
Really weird translation.
Yeah, it's not that in Japanese, although atsu might also be funny in Japanese. So.
Here's another great part of the scene, though. Primera, after Stone is killed, comes up and talks, and she calls out to her father, Papa. She speaks again.
Were Jesse to have really died, we wouldn't have.
Right. This is why Jesse needs to survive in the scene, because she gravitates toward her father and not to Billy.
Yes.
Now, there is one thing I want to show you that I was blown away by. I could not believe this. The subtext here is so amazing. If you go back to the scene at the orphanage where Stone arrives and all the kids run to Stone and they're like, oh, Uncle Stone's here, right? Where did this happen? It happened here, I think. You see Primera has a very different reaction to Stone than the kids.
Oh, really?
Oh, there's Primera up there, right? So Bishop Stone. Primera is with Billy there. Does she do something here? Does she go back inside?
Well,
Or does
she's
she
not
indicate that
greeting
she
him.
doesn't want to go out to see him. Oh, she
Dot,
she
dot,
goes
dot,
back
and
inside.
she turns her back and leaves.
Goes back inside. See that?
Okay, so all the kids ran up and were
All
stoked.
the kids were stoked that Bishop
Yeah.
Stone showed up. So, Billy goes out there to greet him. And in the middle of talking, you just see a ... from Primera, and she turns around and she goes back in the house. She goes away from Bishop Stone. So
Very
she
interesting.
stopped
Very interesting.
talking after this incident with their mother being killed by the wells, right? That's when she stopped talking.
Did she see
She
or did
knew
she know?
all along that Stone was responsible. And this is
Really?
why she stopped gravitating toward Billy, because Billy was becoming endeared to Stone
no way.
and going off with Stone and becoming closer with Stone.
Yes.
And she started to gravitate toward the father when he
She
came
didn't like
back.
that.
And so Billy was resentful, like, I'm the one who's
Yes.
taking care of
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
Why didn't you call my name?
Right. Yeah, he brings that up again.
Now, I love in the scene that he's so happy that she's speaking again. That's really touching.
Yeah.
Really nice. And you kind of see him bow his head, and it's like he's crying because
Yeah.
Prim is talking again. I loved that with Billy, but there's a natural other part of that when they're on the Yggdrasil later where he's like, why won't she talk to me? You know, why is she only talking to you? You weren't even there. I'm the one who took care of her. And,
Right.
and Saitan's like, calm down. I'm sure that
It'll
she'll
come in time.
call your name
Well,
eventually.
Satan says something very interesting where he says, my own daughter doesn't say my name.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which you brought up last time. But
Last-
had you not, that would have been an interesting moment as well. It was
like,
interesting when you
oh,
brought it up, but it's just like
Forgetting
now,
that Midori doesn't talk.
now it
either.
happens. Yeah. And it's like, well, why does she talk to him?
But yeah, it's like really, really in the background there. But that detail
Yeah, I
shows
missed
that
all that
Prim
stuff.
was pretty much aware the whole time who Bishop Stone was,
Yeah.
but could not express it, could not talk.
Yeah.
Now, this kind of throws off something
I
about
was going to say, why couldn't she talk then?
because I made the point in one of the previous episodes that she seems to have some kind of telepathic ability.
Oh, sure, where she
That's
can convey.
what it seemed like to me, because she would
Yeah.
come stand in front of people and ... and all of a sudden they would change their mind or how they were doing.
Yeah.
I felt like she was like communicating either telepathically or empathically. That may not actually be true, because why wouldn't she have empathically or telepathically told
said
someone about who Stone
Something
is?
else.
So maybe that's not what it is. Maybe it's just she has a look on her face
Yeah.
that is making the person reconsider. So, because I looked at the wiki for Prim on the Xenosaga
It doesn't
wiki.
mention that.
It doesn't mention that this telepathic ability that I was talking about. So maybe that's not the case, but that's what it seemed like it was
Yeah.
getting across. So anyway, in any case, she knew about Stone.
Yep.
She knew about Stone. And that detail was there the whole time, and I really, really like how they handled that and put that into the subtext. Really, really nice job.
Yeah.
Okay, now, Jesse starts explaining what he learned back in Solaris about what's called the M project, or the Malak.
Yes.
The Malak.
Malak.
Yeah, so Malak is like an angel or a messenger or something.
Okay, cool.
Suppose that's the word Malak with Malakh, right? The M plan is what they're calling it, which is being conducted by Krelian. Krelian is the one supervising this M plan, right?
He wasn't the initial one, though.
Well,
Wasn't somebody else in charge of it? who
so
then
he's
kind
in
of
charge of it,
abandoned
but there's a scientist,
Yes, there was a scientist.
a main scientist who's like running it, but like it's being supervised or overseen by Krelian.
Okay, that
right?
makes sense. But that scientist kind of
Yeah,
stopped
so
running it.
the main scientist moved the true facts about it into a test gear. Then he let that test gear escape with his daughter, so that the truth would not be discovered. So we're going to learn more about this once we ascend the Tower of Babel and meet Maria. But yeah, there was this M plan, which I don't know how much detail we want to go into right now, but it had to do with the creation of very special gears.
Yeah, but there's still some questions about that from our gameplay
Yeah.
about what exactly it is.
Yeah.
But there's like a really powerful gear.
Yes.
And it has some info on something. Like they're looking for it. Solaris is
Right.
kind of looking for this.
Yeah, and so Jesse has also been searching for this girl in this gear, right, to like uncover more about the M plan. But he figured out that they might be in Shavat now. And he's like, the trail runs cold there because I have no idea how to get into Shavat or even contact them. But luckily, we rescued an agent
prisoner,
of Shavat who was at the Ethos headquarters. So Faye comes walking in with this person, and they go on to say, oh, that wouldn't happen to be Maria, right? The name of that daughter of the scientist? He's like, yeah, that is the name. Okay, well, Maria is in Shavat, yes. Like,
Perfect.
But basically doesn't know how to contact Shavat either. In the place they're at, they're like, I can't really like figure it out either. There is said to be that maybe there's some way of doing it at the top of the Babel Tower. There might be some sort of way, or like a comm system or something up there that might allow you to contact them. So that's probably your best bet, right? Is to ascend the Babel Tower and see if you can find some way to call them or something like that. So they decide that they're going to go to the Babel Tower next and try to contact Shavat. Then we get another scene from the Gazelle Ministry. And like I was saying, I don't want to focus too much on these scenes because you can get really caught up in weeds when we don't really know what they're talking about. We can't.
Although we did miss one line from like 5 Gazelle Ministry sessions ago where at the very end of it, one of them says, "We are gods."
Oh,
do you remember that? We didn't mention that, but I feel like that's important. They see themselves as the new gods of at least of some sort.
Here's another thing to keep in mind though. Personal pronouns are tough in Japanese. Sometimes they is supposed to be we, and sometimes we is supposed to be it, and sometimes it is supposed to be us.
You're right. And so it could just be that would in Japanese say gods exist, but
so I was looking at some of the correctly translated lines from this particular one, and sometimes they'll say they when they mean we, and things like that.
So often.
So that
is
could
so often
have
the case.
been wrong.
That's true. That's
before.
True.
So I don't want to look too much into that yet.
Okay.
But the parts from this Gazelle Ministry conversation I want to look at is one of them says, in any case, the M project, or is the M project proceeding as planned? We need superior bodies and servants. They're speaking to Krelian. This is the first time we've seen Krelian interacting with them.
Yes. Yeah, he's like presenting a plan in front of them.
Yeah, and so they're like, oh, how's the M project proceeding? Because he was the one overseeing that, according to Jesse, right?
And Krelian is not polite to them.
No.
He doesn't seem to respect them, and he doesn't think that they have good intentions.
Yeah. So they're saying...
And he'll tell them to their face.
He's asking them about they are asking him about the M project, and they're asking if it's proceeding as planned. We need superior bodies, right? They're inside of this like little computer sphere. It's like their consciousness is inside of this computer.
Yes, that's kind of explained in this,
And so they said, we've spent far too much time here. We can't afford to mistake the ultimate destination of this new civilization. So they seem to be eager.
Oh, I get it now. I get it. I get it. It's for them.
They seem to be eager to get out
the new human bodies
into a body.
So they uploaded their consciousness to a computer.
Not only them,
forever
Krelian seemed to be the one, because he fires this back at them. Like, I'm not here to answer to you. If it wasn't for me, like, you wouldn't be in there.
Oh, so
that's how he has an upper hand on them.
That's
right?
crazy.
He's the one who sort of like
he could pull the plug and those people literally cease to exist.
Yes. And
That's crazy.
so there's a power struggle there, and Krelian is the one who has the upper hand ultimately in this power hierarchy.
Makes him above the Gazelle.
Krelian is the one who's at the top.
Yeah, but the Emperor does not seem to be connected to the Gazelle in the same way. The Emperor seems to be a separate person.
He's a different person.
I wonder what his relationship is with Krelian.
Yes.
And what both of their relationships are to Graf.
Yes.
And how Miang fits in with Ramses, and how the whole situation.
How it all comes together.
I'm curious to see it, but it's starting to unfold a little. That's interesting.
But this whole time we've kind of felt like the Gazelle or the Gazelle Ministry is kind of at the top.
Yeah.
But this kind of like adds another dimension. Krelian is even above them. And they seem to be working on the same thing, this M project and the resurrection of God.
So they want these perfect human bodies so that they can stop being computers and become people again.
Yes.
That can do stuff
That's
instead
what
of just
they're after.
float in space.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's really the important context to pull from that scene. But Krelian also accuses them of having betrayed their mother or their creator, right?
Yep.
And they admit, that was foolish. So they are admitting they made a mistake with that. And so he also seems to be one who stored their consciousness into this thing and has the real power there, right? Okay.
That's great.
So then you get into the Babel Tower itself. Now, this is an infamously difficult dungeon for a lot of people.
Platforming should not have been allowed in this game. I love all the things that they did within the game, but when you can fall as far as they let you fall, when you make certain mistakes swinging or whatever, that is one of the most frustrating things. And it doesn't take that long to get back up, but I fell probably a dozen times, and that was not very fun for me.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. I think people remember it being a lot worse than it is.
Yeah.
Like even people in Discord when I was playing were like, oh, this part sucks so bad or whatever. But it's like, okay, here's a couple of things you probably don't remember, those of you who played it back then. You probably remember falling over and over again.
Yes.
And like, this game's unplayable without PC save states or something, right? Like, I would never
it wasn't
do
quite that bad.
There's only one room in which you can fall that far and have to redo platforming again. It's the very first room you enter, and it's not even that long. You can scale it in probably about, excluding the battles, probably about like 2 or 3 minutes. It's very short.
If you don't make mistakes.
There's, you kind of jump up to this platform, there's a rope you swing on, and then there's a crane that can fall. You jump from there, and then basically you ascend to the top.
There's another, aren't there 2 ropes?
There's a rope, but it doesn't swing. It's a rope that if you grab onto it, they just auto climb it to the next.
It goes up.
And then that area is done. There's no more falling anymore.
Yeah.
That whole section's over.
That's nice,
it's
but
like
you
it's like a 3-minute ascent.
You still have to platform.
Now here's the other.
It's just not good in this game.
Yeah, the platforming's not good. I'm not discrediting that.
No.
But here's another element people probably don't remember too. People probably remember, oh, I keep falling and I have to fight the battles as I go back up again. Oh, I fall, I have to fight.
Yes.
There are no random encounters in this area. They are fixed encounters. So
so once you go back
there's
up,
a specific tile where you trip the tile and you fight the battle, but then it's gone.
Yeah, okay.
So when you go back up again, you don't fight any more battles.
Them again.
So every time you fall down
that's nice.
and have to get back up to where you fell, you will not fight any more battles again.
I didn't even notice that. Because I didn't know. That's interesting. That's very interesting.
So
I just thought I was getting lucky.
They took steps, the developers did, knowing that this would probably be very frustrating.
Well, that was nice of them.
Right?
Yeah.
If you kept falling, to at least you don't have to fight any encounters. You can get back up literally in seconds. So let's say the first rope swing part. You fall from there and you come over here. It would take you, I'm not exaggerating, at most 10 seconds to get back to that jump to try it again. That's how close it is to the spot where you fall. Like from where you start to that part is like a 10-second doop, 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 doop platforming up to here. Oh, I fell. 10 seconds to get back there. No battles. Try it again. Oh, I fell. 10 seconds. You can try it again. Now, as a kid, I could understand playing it for the first time or something like that. Oh man, I can't make this jump. These controls are bad.
Yes.
That's all true. I'm not saying this is actually good.
Yes.
I'm saying it's
just not
nearly as bad as people remember it being.
Okay, fair enough.
And there are some like intentional design decisions made to make it less frustrating than it really could have been. It could have been really awful.
Right.
But it's not that bad. But yeah, use
enough.
PC save states if you want to do that to make it a little bit less frustrating. But I really like the Babel Tower as a dungeon. There's a lot of really cool shots. I put spoiler warnings on our last conversation about Babel Tower. Now I think
because of
it's pretty clear based on the
going inside
the technology inside of it.
The caution signs, like that was
computer terminals and like chairs that are like in like I don't know how to, the orientation. It's like they're looking upwards, right? It's like you would sit at this computer terminal in a chair. And that computer
was huge, by the way. That
huge screens and displays.
The computer that we came to that was kind of semicircular with the huge screens, and we're standing on it to like type things. That's a big computer. That's for a computer for giants. It seems.
Yes, I really like the dungeon a lot. I think it's really cool. Like not just the design of the thing. Like it's very like mysterious and interesting, and it's just like, wow, like look at this. This is cool.
Yeah.
But you're riding it up to the top. Ramses encounters you about halfway up, and you have a battle with him. And as you fight him off, and as they're retreating, his ship gets attacked by Shavat. So Shavat's overhead and like
That was
fires
great,
down
by the way.
on the Gebler ship.
Yes.
And it's like, oh crap.
I was not expecting what we do find in Shavat when we eventually get there.
Yeah.
Shavat seems incredibly powerful.
Yes.
Like way beyond possibly even Solaris.
But at the
powerful.
same time, not.
Yes.
Because they do mention that they're
once
not.
we get there, they basically are like so sad that they have literally no power at all and can't do anything. And I'm like, you guys, that does not make sense. I'm sorry. You are incredibly powerful. They're afraid of you. They haven't touched you for however many 100 years you've been there.
It's like they're
and you're afraid. It just
they
seems
have
a little
protection
backwards.
from Solaris, but they don't have the power to attack Solaris. I guess would be the way to put that. They don't have a way to like hurt Solaris, infiltrate Solaris. Their gates keep them from each other.
Okay,
right?
fair enough. Yeah.
But they can defend themselves from a Solaris attack. Solaris can't get at them, but they also can't get at Solaris. So maybe you can call it a stalemate, but Solaris is developing stuff
and they aren't. They're
that
just chilling.
they morally are obligated not to pursue.
So at some point,
So-
they're fighting a losing battle. Like they
Yes.
will lose eventually.
That's kind of how I see that.
Fair, yeah.
So when they're saying we don't have any power, it's not like literally we have no capabilities of doing anything. It's we have no power over them. Anyways,
Yeah.
you make it up to the top of the Babel Tower, and Maria comes out to attack you in the Siebsen gear. This is the prototype that was being built by her father, right? And I think that we're probably going to have to leave off here before we really get into Shavat, because there's just too much to talk about in Shavat, and we don't have that much time. We
I
gotta
think
get
that's
back
good.
to the train.
I think that's good.
So we're probably going to leave off here, but you fight Maria.
But she's just testing us.
She's just testing
it's
your
okay.
strength. And then Shavat comes and docks at the top
Yeah,
of. You were talking about the altitude that it flies at is the same. as the
Yeah,
top
it
of the
seems
tower.
to be right there.
Docks there. They let you in, and you get into Shavat. There's a lot of stuff with lore and things like that with the NPCs, and just like a ton of stuff to talk about that we'll have to save for another time because we're running low on time here today.
Yeah.
But was there any other notes that you took while I look up where we want to get to next time?
So what I have here is the Krelian can talk down to the Gazelle, and the Gazelle are just memories stored on a hard drive. I love that because I'm actually very interested in the whole idea of uploading your consciousness. Not because I want to do it, because I think it's a bad idea, but that other people want to do it, and I think that it's a bad idea for them to want to do it. And what does it mean? Are you still you once you've uploaded your consciousness?
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. I love those kind of general questions and stuff. I thought when they talked about the leader of a project who sent his daughter away, I thought it was going to be Ellie and her dad, but they dispelled that very quickly.
Yeah. This is going to be a mess for Kaysen to edit. I really apologize.
It's all good, don't worry.
Sometimes we do
It's
the
not that hard.
podcast and it just like flows and it just
Yes.
like we're on point and the notes go
Right.
well and like the counter examples like flow together. Sometimes things get brought up that like you go, oh, actually, I'm not sure about that. Let me look
Yes.
that up. Or like
Yeah.
there's things you didn't anticipate coming up and you go like, oh, wait, now I got to look up and make sure that I'm being accurate. There's just so much to the game that like it's hard to keep it all straight. So hopefully this turns out okay and isn't like super
Too jumpy.
disconnected and the conversation is like, oh, like hopefully Kaysen can edit this into something coherent is what I'm trying to say.
Well, we'll see.
If it doesn't turn out that way, I apologize.
This line of
but-
yours will come at the end, so people will know whether it happened or not.
I will put in the top pinned comment where to play up to for the next time because we didn't get all the way through what I wanted to in this one.
Not quite.
So so it may be less or more. I have to research into how exactly what much time it's going to take and how many things we'll have to like really dig into.
That's it's less about how long it takes and more about what the things are that we're going to talk about.
that you have to talk about that you don't foresee being like big rabbit holes or something.
Yeah.
So I'll look into that and it'll be in the pinned comment. But thank you for watching. We are on the back half of this and it's only going to get deeper and it's only going to get like harder to describe and explain. So we're doing our best here. We really
Okay.
are, but it's hard. It's a difficult game to wrap your head around. It's a difficult game to explain. and hopefully it's fun to watch. But we'll see you guys next week. Peace out.